let's record. Okay. We're letting everybody in. And then Purminder, I'll just hand over to you.
Thank you. Hello.
I think you're good to go, Purminder.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Carrie. Welcome everybody to this webinar, which I'm sure is going to be full of some absolute gems for you that have all joined us this afternoon. You may be taking your lunch, which is why your camera's not on, but do feel free to switch them on because we're quite a small group and it's lovely to have that interactivity and engagement from you. If you do have any questions along the way, please either pop them in the chat and Carrie will moderate, or pop your hand up and I'll try and come to you. But I'm absolutely delighted to be here today, hosting this on behalf of the Media Talent Manifesto, which, if you don't know, is about focusing on skills and education and diversity within our sector. And the programme Ignite Mentoring is in partnership with Black Women in Post-Production and Black People in Sports Broadcast. And they're supporting our goal to have more diverse representation across our industry. So I'm really delighted to welcome to the panel today the founder of Black People in Sports Broadcasting, Samantha Fray.
Hello.
And she's also the talent development lead in television and a massive sports fan, I should say. Also, Jasmin John, who is the founder of Black Women in Post-Production. Welcome, Jasmin.
Thank you. Hello, everyone.
Tanya Rai, my good friend, who's the marketing manager at Base, and they're a media tech company that manage cloud services across the sector.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see you.
And Annika Allen Gray, who's the head of diversity, equity and inclusion at All Three Media. Welcome, Annika.
Hi.
So the point of today's webinar was to sort of go through some of the advantages, benefits, outcomes that can be realised through the whole mentoring programme. So I'm going to start off by asking our esteemed panel here why you believe mentoring is such a powerful tool. And I'm going to go to Tanya first, because I know she's been both a mentee and a mentor in the past.
Yeah, so I think with mentoring and being involved in that network is one of the key things for me that I took away both as a mentee and a mentor. It's that sense of community that you end up building. And obviously the relationship that you have with your mentor as well on that one-to-one basis is super helpful. And I was very lucky to be paired with somebody who has now become a very good friend of mine. So not just a mentor, but a friend. And that doesn't always happen. So I want to kind of preface that. I think I won the mentor lottery when I got paired with mine. But what was really lovely and useful for me was the fact that I had somebody as a sounding board. And my mentor didn't try to solve my challenges for me. She was very good at asking the right questions that enabled me to figure out the decision for myself rather than telling me what to do. And obviously, there would be times where she would say, you know, this is one road you can go down and this is another road you can go down. But essentially, I think what mentoring did for me was empowered me.
Amazing. Jasmin.
Yeah, so I think that the real value in mentoring lies in kind of the guidance, the support, and also kind of the practical insights that you get, especially from like an industry professional where they've got that lived experience. And I feel like that's something that kind of formal training and also like formal education, it doesn't give you that. And similar to Tanya, I have been a mentee, but I've also mentored as well. And it's that thing of like, it's just a great way to kind of give back and pay it forward as well, and helping kind of, you know, guide entry-level talent, diverse talent, showing them the ropes. And it's that yeah, that sharing knowledge in kind of that safe space as well. You're creating a really safe space in a one-to-one setting, or, you know, in a small group setting as well. So yeah, I think there's so much value in mentoring, and that's why I'm really excited about our mentoring program.
Amazing. Sam?
I think mentoring is a powerful tool because to me it's like an interruption to isolation, especially if you come from a Black and global majority background. Like if you don't have any contacts, you don't have any friends that are in there, having a good mentor can help you with your roadmap, your career path, and really understanding what it is that you want to do. Across my career, I've worked on entry-level programs and I've met loads of people who have no idea what they want to do, but having a good mentor will help them figure out where they should be by not telling them what to do, but by like maybe holding up a mirror and saying, listen, you're good at this, maybe you should consider. And that's been a powerful tool for them in their own career development. So mentoring to me is absolutely essential.
And Annika?
I've been probably a mentor more than I've been a mentee, but in different guises. So I've been kind of a mentor in the standard sense, but I've also been a reverse mentor. So where I've kind of ended up mentoring a CEO of an organization, particularly around issues of gender and race, and in terms of the organization, and also a reciprocal mentor where you've got mentor mentee, but you're both getting something out of this situation. Whereas I think that actually that happens anyway in any kind of mentor mentee relationship, that the mentor and mentee both get something out of it. And I think just being a mentor, you know, it's from the mentor perspective, it's kind of just fulfilling to know that you're able to kind of impart kind of like wisdom, guidance, advice from your experience within a particular industry, or your knowledge of a certain thing onto somebody else. And you know, whether that mentee wants to kind of develop new skills or wants further information on how to kind of perform a particular task, if they've got certain professional goals that they want to achieve, and a great mentor can help them identify how they can achieve that, and also connect them with networks as well. I've, you know, people that are in their own little kind of black book. And so I think there's been times where kind of I've known somebody that's been able to help kind of a mentee kind of like get ahead, or to give maybe advice and guidance that I might not necessarily know that the mentee wanted. So again, me opening doors because of the relationships that I have for the mentee. And I think those are the kind of things that make that kind of relationship useful.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hearing a really strong theme in all of your answers about that guidance, support, practical insight, opening up your own network when you work as a mentor. But I think what's also really interesting to understand is that for people that come from our communities, we don't have that role modeling, or maybe that education piece which teaches us how to navigate our careers. So certainly for our communities, it's really, really important to be able to pay it forward when you are in that situation. So could you all share a moment where mentorship has made a real direct impact or difference in either your career or one of your mentees? Sam?
Oh, I've been lucky enough to be on so many amazing mentorship programs, like Women in Film and TV was one. I had the amazing Tamara Howe, who, I mean, Tanya, you mentioned your mentor becoming your friend, and Tamara is a dear person to me, somebody I know that I can go to even now, years after. And I think what it did for me was it helped me understand my own leadership and my own purpose in the industry. Coming from Leeds, the network is small. There's not very many Black women who are about. There's not very many people to network with. So knowing that there are people out there who can hold you, can make you understand that you are visible, you have a place, and that you should be doing what you're doing is such a powerful thing. And even if they can't open their address book and give you something immediately, just having someone to talk to, having someone to soundboard is one of the most important things that happened for me. And it's why I am where I am now on my journey, because I had those people to help and support me.
I think you used a really powerful word there, visibility. And I think that is absolutely one of the key points about the whole mentoring thing, either as a mentee or as a mentor. It's just suddenly you feel seen, don't you? And you feel understood. Tanya?
I think I would echo that in terms of the visibility. And for me personally, that was something that happened not overnight. It took quite a bit of time, but I think because of the work that I've done on my own personal brand, alongside having somebody supporting me as a mentor, and then opening up that community as well throughout the wider mentoring program, was key. And in terms of when I've mentored, I don't want to kind of be dismissive of my mentoring capabilities, but there isn't a specific instance that I can talk to, but I know how I made my mentees feel. And that for me was the biggest takeaway, was that they felt seen, they felt heard. I often gave them a different perspective on things that they hadn't quite looked at before. And I think that for me was a really joyful thing, actually, when you're talking to that person, you're talking to your mentee, and you suddenly see the cogs turning in their mind, and then the light bulb goes off, and you're just like, there you go. That's it. So yeah, I think it's a combination of visibility, but community as well.
And I think you also raise a really vital point there when you talk about how it's about just inspiring your mentee to figure things out in their own authentic, natural way as well. You're not coaching, you're not trying to provide the solutions, you're enabling them to understand what their needs are and how they might need to progress in order to reach that ultimate destination, whether it's a foot in the door or promotion within the industry. Which leads nicely on to my next question. But, how does I forgot to go to Jasmin and Annika. I will just do that first. Jasmin, go ahead.
That's all right.
So when has mentorship made a difference for either yourself or somebody you've mentored?
Yeah, I mean, early in my career, so I was starting out entry level as a trainee. I kind of struggled to kind of understand my value as a trainee, being kind of, lower end of the career ranks and things. It's like I didn't have a lot of experience, if any, on my first trainee job. I didn't know if I had the right skills. And so I turned to mentors for like that support and that guidance. And some of these mentors were in unofficial capacities. So I would look to my assistant editors and my editors for that kind of support. But then I remember doing the Media Trust Transforming Hidden Talent mentoring program as well. And that was in a more official capacity, under a mentoring program. And what those mentors did for me was they helped me like set my own milestones for what I wanted my editing journey and what I wanted my career journey to look like. So they gave me advice on kind of how to advocate for myself. They helped me to build my confidence, and that like fundamentally shifted my kind of career path on that journey, because I remember setting, the milestone of that I wanted to step up to first assistant editor, for example, within a year. And I managed to achieve that. And that was, partially because of the support from my mentors. Thank you. So, yeah.
And Annika, I mean, from your role as DEI advocate within the industry, I'm sure you've got something marvelous to share with us.
I'd say that in terms of I guess me mentoring somebody, there was one individual that I can think of in particular where she I guess wasn't that confident in terms of her kind of taking that next step up to the next role. And so it was kind of working with her to kind of to make sure she realized kind of actually how amazing she was. So kind of like actually doing a bit of a deep dive on her skills, so that she realized the kind of skills that she had that would be that are required for the role, but also what she was going to bring to the role. Looking at kind of her CV, so going for her CV and kind of like improving some of the things on her CV, but working with her to do that. As well as kind of just getting her to track her wins, because I think we all don't do that enough in terms of thinking about the great things we've achieved and the things that we've done, and actually just tracking that. So I kind of just encourage her and anybody listening today is actually just whether it's just a Google Doc Excel sheet or your notes in your phone, just really just write down some of the things that you've achieved, because when you're kind of having to look back and either add it to your CV or even speak about yourself in the interview, you look back, you're like, oh, actually, I've done a lot of amazing things. I am quite great. And also just building that individual's network. So not necessarily just opening my concept, but encouraging her to actually just reach out to people, because ultimately I think most people, if you just say to them, can we have a 5, 10, 15-minute virtual coffee chat, or are you free to meet for a coffee chat? Majority of people actually say yes, or even if they can't do it now, maybe in a couple of months' time. And so encouraging her to do that, and just to find out more about the kind of role that she wanted to do, the space that she wanted to go into. So kind of just empowering her to say, you can do this. And so then to see kind of later on her applying for roles and then getting that next step on the ladder just was amazing. And so I think that's kind of the power of mentorship, in terms of just really kind of helping someone to kind of see the power that they have within themselves.
And I'm also interested to understand, I've done reverse mentoring as well, and that's a very, very different experience, isn't it? Was there anything sort of that really stayed with you from that experience?
I guess from the reverse mentoring experience, the thing that stayed with me the most is, even though the person I was mentoring was the CEO, and you think the CEO has all the information, knows everything about the business, and they actually don't. And the reason why I ended up mentoring this individual is because it was the CEO's EA that was like, he's having issues within within the company because of the lens that you had when it came to gender and race, and it was like really interrogating that with him, but letting him know, this is a safe space. Ask the questions that you want to ask. Say the things that you want to say. I will not be offended. I'd rather you say it to me and then me challenge you on it than you say it to people in the business, and then people thinking that that they don't respect you as a leader, because we need respect you as a leader. And at least let's challenge, let's look at and interrogate where your thoughts are going on this. So I think it's a different relationship when you're kind of reverse mentoring, particularly if the person is more senior than you, in terms of how you navigate that. But it was a great experience, and what I was pleased with is that, in terms of the people that the direct reports and the people that they managed, who often were thinking that people were getting ahead within the business because they're either female or because they were from an ethnically diverse background, actually saying, you need to go back to your leaders and actually take the data to them and actually show them that this isn't the case. We're actually a really small percentage, and the communication's been doing really well, but clearly there's an illusion of inclusion here. So literally, this is what you need to go back and working that out with him. And so I think that just kind of just gave me an insight into sometimes how leaders think and how they manage.
And obviously there's great benefits to the organisation that employs you through mentoring as well.
Oh, definitely. And also, I think in that particular organization, we also did a mentoring, but through the lens of internal mobility as well. And so kind of people that wanted to kind of go to that next step in their career, and we ran a mentoring program where we kind of looked at actually how can we support these people to kind of get to that next step. And so I think mentoring can come in various guises, but ultimately I think it's just a very important thing. And also for me, what I love is when mentoring relationships then turn to, as Tanya said, either a friendship or a sponsorship relationship. So because that's like, a mentor obviously is there to kind of give you that advice and guidance, but sponsors the person that will kind of be your cheerleader, be your advocate, speak about you in rooms that you're not in. And in particular in the creative industry, and in particular in TV, I think that's really important, because if you're that producer, director, if you're that editor, if you're that writer, if you've got somebody that's got your back and that's in that room saying, we want this person on this project, and this is the budget, I'll pay them this much, then how amazing would that be? So again, a mentoring relationship can even turn into something more.
Amazing. So I'm going to come to you again, Tanya. How does mentorship aid an individual? So at various stages in the career, I mean, personally, I only ever benefit from having a mentor when I was quite far into my career, and I learned all of the things that Annika's just mentioned, being able to advocate for yourself, having that sponsorship and having that, belief in your own ability. What's your experience?
Yeah, so I didn't actually get into mentoring until I was 35. So I was 35 or 36. And it was a kind of revelation to me, because I was just like, oh my God, where has this been all my life? I entered the media industry at the age of 23 in 2007, and it was hard. It was so hard. And I look back now, and at the time I didn't think it was hard. It was just how it was. Like, it's just the way it is. And I look back now and just think, gosh, had I had access in my younger years, it would have been amazing. But it is what it is. And I'm glad that I did have it at that age, because I think what it enabled me to do was have the benefit of experience, right? And the benefit of knowing the questions to ask, that would get me ahead. And I know that's putting the onus onto myself as a mentee, which isn't necessarily the case for other people, especially when they're younger. Because to Jasmin's point, when she started out, she couldn't even articulate her value because she wasn't sure, right? Whereas I was further on in and I could see where my value was, but it was, how can I amplify that? How can I magnify that? And how can I be seen? So I think for me, that was how it aided me. And like I said before, it's that visibility and community were the two key things for me.
Jasmin.
So I think that mentors and like mentorship can really help kind of demystify a lot of what it's really like to work in the industry. Because I know whenever people hear that I work in high-end TV as an editor, that I worked on a Netflix global hit, that I've edited an ITV drama, they envision that kind of glitz and glamour of the BAFTAs and awards and red carpets. What I think mentees really value is like, what does that look like day to day? Like, what is expected of you in a role? What soft and hard skills do you need? Which ones do you need to develop and work on? How do you identify opportunities to progress? How can you build your network? All of those really valuable aspects. So I think that insider knowledge, I love to call it, is what helps you kind of build your career roadmap, but also helps your personal development as well. So it's, dealing with imposter syndrome, or what it's like to be a Black woman in the industry, how to navigate the workplace, how to navigate building contacts, all of that wonderful stuff. And then also, again, I think it's been mentioned already, but like mentors can help you build a really strong network because they have their own connections themselves and they've built those networks that you can then leverage as well. And then they can also advocate for you, like we've been saying. They can, put you forward for opportunities and make those introductions. So, yeah.
Annika.
When I think back to when I first started in the industry, which is probably around the same kind of time as you, Tanya, it was a time in the industry where a lot of times people would go to like pubs and bars and drink a lot, and that's where the kind of networks and the contacts were made. I had no clue about that. I would go into the office, I would finish the work at whatever time I'd finish, and I would go home. It was only when when I was speaking to a mentor and I was like, oh, my contract's coming to an end. What happens next? And they were like, well, have you not been, speaking to people? Have you gone to whatever the local bar was at the time? No, am I supposed to do that? Yeah, just go there. Everybody goes there after work and they talk about. So again, it's about those unwritten rules sometimes that people then can kind of like navigate you to. I had no idea that I needed to. I mean, I'm not a drinker and I wasn't a smoker, and but I went and I nursed my cranberry juice and I managed to get my next role because somebody highlighted that, my mentor had highlighted that to me. And if I hadn't had that conversation with the mentor at the time, I probably would have been out of the job and debating on what do I do next? How do I get that next contract? And so I think the value of a good mentor is kind of just seeing and highlighting to you again the gaps in your knowledge and your experience that you don't know. So also I think that's one of the powerful things a mentor can do.
Can you hear me, Sam?
Sorry, was that you thrown over to me?
Yes,
Sorry.
please.
I feel like I was just engrossing what Annika said. Where am I? Sorry. I was just sat here thinking while he was speaking. I didn't start in this industry until I was 31. I went back to university as a mature student. So I knew I was going into a world where everybody was younger than me, where like it really was an impulsive thing that I did, but I knew that I needed to do it. But I also think that university gave me the foothold into what mentorship was, because and lots of the lecturers now I know I still speak to, because they had to hold my hand through those 3 years and really help me figure out why I was still there and what I was doing. So by the time I got into industry, I already had a plan about what needed to happen and what kind of mentor I needed. So being the tenacious person I am, I think I probably sought out mentors more than anything, and sought out the kind of person that I knew who could help me get to where I needed to go to. Of course, I had 4 children by the time I went there. I was not going out to drink. So I used to have to make use of the coffee machine, the kitchen, the whatever else that I needed to do in order to get those connections. And because of the type of job I did, I worked in the Emmerdale print room, so I used to go around everywhere and see everybody and just chat. I think for me, the idea of having a mentor just meant that I could be strategic about my career planning, knowing that I couldn't do what everybody else did. Knowing that, like, I had very young kids, I needed to get home. I lived in Leeds. I know I keep saying this, but regionally, we have to remember that it's really hard regionally to build a career. So you do have to be very strategic in what you do. And mentors play a vital role in the regions with helping people plan where they want to go. Also, making them understand they do not need to leave where they live in order to have a career. We just need to get better at identifying talent in the regions and uplifting and promoting them. And that's one of the things that I have spent my career banging the drum about. Like, we need to make sure that we're covered over here and that we teach people these basic skills, like, how they can connect with people without having to do things the old school way. Um, and for me, that's what mentorship was, or at least what I told myself it needed to be for me.
And I think what you described there with the lack of sort of regional representation, that could well change as innovation continues and we see more, less need for people to physically be in certain spaces. So that could be an opportunity, for example. What do you all think are some of the qualities that a really effective mentor brings? And I'm going to go to Annika first.
The qualities that an effective mentor brings. I think it's, again, in the beginning, just making sure that individual knows it's a safe space in terms of the questions that they can ask, the things that they bring up in that conversation. So I guess making the person feel safe, because often, particularly, I think it doesn't even matter if it's TV or any industry. Sometimes people don't feel always comfortable asking certain questions in the workplace or asking certain questions to colleagues, and so having kind of that, knowing that you're with somebody that's a bit of a safe space to ask these questions, I think that's valuable in terms of a mentor bringing that to the program. Again, and having a plan, I think it's good in the beginning for you to kind of sit down and say, actually, what are you trying to get out of this? What is it? Why do you want to mentor in the first place? So that you both know kind of where that person's trying to get and create a bit of a roadmap to help support each of the sessions, so you get value. Because again, each person's time is valuable. You're both taking time out of your kind of working day or out of your family life to have this time with the individual. So I think having a proper plan in terms of how of what you're trying to achieve and what you want from each session, I think is a good thing as well. So I think a good mentor does that. And then aligns that plan with kind of how they can support, whether it is through networks, whether it is through kind of asking, providing that advice and guidance, etc., or giving tasks that they then come back each session and be like, so how have you done? Where are we, etc., and holding that person accountable and things. Because I think for me, the accountability part's been probably one of the best things when I have a mentor, because then if I'm set something and I know I've got that meeting coming back up with the mentor, then it's like, okay, I'm going to make sure I do it. Whereas if I probably didn't have that mentor relationship, other work might come to be more important for me to get done. And so I think having that mentor relationship kind of can hold a person accountable as well. So that's some things I let other people have time to add on other things.
Jasmin.
Annika covered a lot of the ones that I was going to mention, but we'll add a couple more. I think Tanya mentioned this earlier as well, about that kind of being that active listener. So it's listening to understand, not just to respond. And it's about guiding the mentee to kind of figure out the answer to their own questions rather than like, prompting them and guiding them without trying to say, this is the answer to your problem. I'm here to give you a solution kind of thing. I think also just being patient, understanding, encouraging. That's what I really valued in a lot of my mentoring sessions as a mentee. And I also tried to emulate that when I was a mentor. And also just not gatekeeping. So again, it's that willing to share your own relevant professional experience, your own insights, and then also being willing to make those introductions, like I mentioned before, that you think will benefit the mentee in their career and their personal development as well.
Tanya.
I'm going to use the phrase constructive challenging, and it's different to constructive feedback. And I'm saying this because I think the one thing that I did as a mentor, which surprised my mentee, one of my mentees, was challenging her on a specific issue, which I'm not going to explain what it was, but it was the gist was, you've got to get real here. And I think what that did was opened up their mind in a different perspective, because they had this tunnel vision of their own viewpoint and not really considering the business perspective of the organization that they were in as well, right? So it was kind of, it sounds harsh what I'm about to say, but it was all about them. And actually, for me as a mentor, highlighting that you're in a business that needs to make money and your salary is conducive to that business making money, like just think about that. And I think that was a bit of a light bulb moment for that particular individual.
And Sam.
So I thought about this before I came on here, and I was thinking, as from a BPSB perspective, what would I want mentors to be? And I wrote down a few words, and some of them were like empathy without ego. I have a big thing about people's titles. When you come in as a mentor, it doesn't matter what position you've got into, having empathy for the person that's just coming in is really important. I often say, using the analogy, like we all learned how to drive a car once, right? We never knew what we were doing, but we had to figure it out before we became expert drivers. I mean, if that's what you want to call yourself, but it's really important to have the empathy and lose the ego. Again, we've mentioned this, listening without over advising, so having active listening in and maybe listening out for the things that they're not saying, so you can try and identify, bits that you can pick up with them. Honesty with kindness, especially in this time, because the world feels like it's on fire, and we shouldn't forget that. We shouldn't forget people are going through things. I'm not saying that you need to be somebody's therapist or anything, but be honest with them, but just understand that things are happening and there might be things happening in their life. And again, just a commitment on centering the mentee and not projecting your own path, because as we all know, I'm pretty sure none of us got into this industry one standard way. There are so many different ways to entry. So just remembering that, our path was different, and making sure that they're the center of our mentee mentor journey.
Absolute nuggets in there, particularly Tanya's point about, as a mentee, understanding what your position is within that company. And I've definitely heard it in leadership, when I've been in leadership roles, that oftentimes employees are asking what the company can do for them, but not selling what they can do for the company, and vice versa. So I think that was, for me, a really important point. And also active listening, empathy without ego, I just think needs to be on a t-shirt, frankly. How would you define, or how can we measure the impact or success of mentoring, Annika?
Well, obviously, because I'm from the world of DEI, I'm very big on what gets measured gets managed. So I think there's a few different ways that you can do it. So generally feedback surveys, so having a feedback survey, one at the beginning to see where they are, maybe a check-in in the middle with a survey, and then also one at the end, and then that helps you kind of look at the results through that lens. You can just kind of have like actually testimonials from the mentee and mentor as well. So you could even include that in the survey, and they can write a paragraph about it, or you can do that verbally as well, kind of just having regular check-ins as well, just to see are things going well between the mentee and the mentor. You know, we're in the business of storytelling, so get those stories. Let the mentee or mentor know how has this program helped them grow. You know, what's helped them improve, etc. What was the satisfaction with the program? I think so. Kind of measuring those things can be quite impactful, and help. And then obviously, then there's kind of other data, depending on the kind of organization you're in. You know, if the person's with an organization, you could kind of track if they managed to get a promotion. Did they manage to get a pay rise? Has the company that they're working for retained them, or if they're a freelancer, have they managed to have consistent contracts? So what's been the speed of their career progression? So they're kind of just some of the things that kind of come to mind when I think about kind of that measurement perspective for a mentorship program.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of companies, retention is a massive issue as well. So, you know, by engaging with your employees through successful mentoring and letting them feel like they are able to be heard, must enable people to want to stay with companies. Jasmin.
Yeah, echoing all of those sentiments, I think the issue with the industry is those retention rates, especially for diverse talent, because what we see a lot of is those entry-level talent schemes. We see a lot of mid-level accelerators, but a lot of the time that has to do with kind of the lack of ongoing support. So once you're in, then what? I think a lot of what Annika said was kind of what I would, you know, use to measure success as well. So it is those success stories, those testimonials, and staying in touch with mentees after the program ends. I'm still in touch with a lot of my mentees as well, and they're constantly, you know, letting me know kind of what they're doing in the industry now and how things are going, and they still reach out for advice as well. So those kind of, you know, regular ongoing check-ins on their progress and their journey, and if, you know, if there's anything more that I can offer in terms of support or advice, then I'm always happy to do that. Also like mentor and also mentee feedback. So whether it's like a discussion, whether it's a form or you know, another way to do so, but it's like finding out what worked in that scenario, in that setting, and also what didn't, and how to kind of improve that going forward. And then of course it's, you know, the surveys and the statistics. So again, I think what worked for me as a mentee was writing down ahead of the program and ahead of our sessions what I wanted to get out of it. So I was very clear on what I wanted to achieve. And then during kind of the post-survey and the post-program feedbacks, like, did I achieve what I set out to achieve, or is there more work that I need to do? And, you know, it might be things like skill development, or did I increase my book of contacts, my little black book of contacts? Do I feel like I have more confidence now to go to networking events, or to reach out to people with cold emails, or, you know, LinkedIn messages, or whatever, you know, form of reaching out that you do? And do I feel confident in finding where my next opportunity might be as well? So it's all of those kind of things wrapped up.
It's very interesting. You mentioned you know, sending out cold emails or responding to cold emails. And I actually had that experience recently where I was put in touch with somebody via my network, and I was possibly not my authentic self in the way that I wrote that email. And I eventually met that person incidentally. And the response I got was, oh, yeah, it was such a formal email. I thought it was a bot. So I think that's really important as well, is like, don't feel like you need to conform to a standard in order to engage with people. Like, just be yourself, and don't worry about, you know, what other people think, but be as real and confident in your abilities. Tanya.
I think from the perspective of the individuals, everything that's been said, and like monitoring that between yourselves, but I think as the organisers of the mentoring program itself, it's probably worthwhile thinking ahead in terms of like these check-in points with both the mentor and the mentee at certain points, right? So is there a yearly check-in, and, you know, what happens to that mentee 5 years from now? So before this call happened, Carrie and I were talking about how we first met, and we met in 2019, and you know, it's a little more than 5 years ago now, but where I am now versus where I was then, it's been an amazing journey for me, and mentoring has absolutely 100% helped with that. It's helped with my confidence, it's helped with my ability to be seen, it's helped with my network. I've had opportunities to work abroad, and it's I've increased my earning potential so quite significantly from the moment that I met Carrie. So I think having those measures in place where you're asking these strategic questions that have already been discussed, but also what's your earning potential be? Because at the end of the day, we all work to make a living, right? And yes, we're passionate, and yes, we're passionate about the industry, but I think one thing we need to remember is that we want to be paid adequately for what we do too, right? And creative industries notoriously known for not paying that well. And, that's just across the board. Imagine if you're one of us. What's the deal then? Not a great one.
I thank you for raising the point of remuneration, because absolutely we're all about development and being able to use our creativity and pursue our careers, but we do also want to be recompensed appropriately for the work that we do. Sam?
Well, I must remember now to self-edit myself because Tanya, you've raised an amazing point. And yes, I love that, but I won't say any more on that other than I'm going to sprinkle some fairy dust on this and say, being yourself is an amazing thing. And one of the best things that I did was give myself permission to be myself. And understanding that along the way, you plant seeds and they don't always flourish immediately. But as you go along, they will, and all of those things will come up. And that's the same thing with mentoring programs. You're not going to be able to measure the success instantly, especially in this industry. Everything takes so long. The wheels turn very slowly. However, what we can do is build communities where people can feel like they can go to others, that they can take control of their own career. I think so much of us along the way have felt that in order for us to be professional, there is a one standard way of doing it. And if we stick to that standard way, we are going to get the money, the success, and that doesn't always happen. So making sure that you keep in touch, making sure that you have alumni networks for all of these mentoring programs. I work a lot across screen skills, and the last couple of days, I did Adolescents First Break, and I'm still part of the WhatsApp group, and listening to all of them chat with each other and talk about where they've been, where they're going, who's mentored them, who's not, gives me joy because I know that all of those have been mentored and that they're doing well. And that's great. They're not despondent. They're not worried about being in from Yorkshire and not getting a job. They're all being proactive with each other. And I think that's something that we need to remember when we track progress, is that it won't always be instant, but you've made an impact. And it's just to remember that at some point that person is going to do amazing things because of you and your part in their journey. So that's the little fairy dust I like to stick on when I'm thinking, oh God, we can't get a job, we haven't got enough, but yeah, but the positives.
Love that. So we're here today because of the Ignite mentoring program, which is launching, and Ignite's focus is around ethnic representation in our sector. So how do we all think that this program could enable and advance folks that join the mentoring program? Sam?
So I would love to think that Ignite is going to be a bridge of different possibilities, right? That Ignite is there to make sure that people from ethnically diverse backgrounds have mentors that can help solidify their careers. I mean, when I founded Black People in Sports Broadcasting, one of my dreams was to make sure that mid to senior level people behind the cameras in sports, branded content, and live production had an ability to gather their career path, which is brilliant. But then also that they'd be able to mentor the up and coming people who are coming in. And I think us starting with Ignite is so important because what we are doing is we're starting that journey immediately off the bat as soon as we started this. And I'm grateful that Carrie got in touch and that we're all together doing this with Black Women in Post Production as well, because I think over time we're going to realise how important this was and the amount of careers that we're going to impact just by all of us coming together and doing what we set out to do, not just talking about it, but getting it done, which I think at this time where we are in the world is so, so important.
Love that. Jasmin.
Yeah, definitely echoing what Sam said. I think mentoring is something that we've wanted to do as part of BWIP for the longest time. So incredibly grateful that Carrie's kind of brought us together to do this. And I think a big thing for me, especially with BWIP, is that idea of role models. So when you're able to see people from a similar background to you, from a similar, gender, ethnicity, seeing that success is really powerful. Because if people can see that I, for example, can do it as a Black mixed heritage woman, then I want other, Black and Black mixed heritage women to think and say the same. If Jasmin can do it, why can't I? And I think that's what this kind of program is building for, women that look like us. It's, for us, it's by us kind of thing. And again, it's just echoing everything we've said in this call. It's about demystifying those pathways. It's about building that confidence, overcoming imposter syndrome, that self-advocacy, sponsorship, support, strengthening networks, all of those really, really wonderful things. And it all kind of comes together in that idea of community as well, which I think is really important and really, really lovely.
Tanya.
What's really lovely about this is that we're going to have the next generation of people from ethnically diverse backgrounds who hopefully won't think what I did when I first started in the industry. And it's a story I've told Carrie before. And I used to pretend I was of European ancestral heritage on my CVs. Like, that's how I would view myself. And I didn't even know I was conscious of it. It was so weird. I used to say to myself, they're going to think I'm white English because I've got a Western forename and my surname is just 3 letters. They're not going to be able to figure it out. And when they see me, because I'm quite fair-skinned, they still won't work it out. And I look back now and just think, oh, Tanya, isn't that just horrible? So I think having something like this now is going to put people in a position where they don't even have to think about that. I mean, it will always be a thing. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I'm getting emotional.
Yeah, I think what you've just shared is huge, as a personal admission, and I think it also speaks to why you believe in the whole mentoring program so passionately, because you realised that you had to do the things that you had to do in order to just get your foot in the door, which is not really ideal. I'll give you a moment to collect yourself, Annika.
When I think back to when I first started in the industry, I'm originally from Birmingham, moved to London to kind of work within the creative industry, and I didn't know anybody, know anything, and if I fast forward to today, and touch on the community. So I have a community called Black Leaders in TV, and the reason why I started that community was to one, kind of let the community kind of connect, get to know each other, utilize our collective power, and understand kind of actually there are lots of us in the industry doing different roles and doing different things. And then speaking to that community, realize that lots of us have had the similar journeys, that when we started out, we had a kind of limited access to networks. The kind of role models weren't there for us to kind of see, and obviously not for everybody, but for a lot of people, representation does matter. Like seeing is believing. If you can see somebody doing the kind of things you want to do, it kind of it empowers you to think, actually they're doing it, so maybe I can do it too. Instead of you thinking, okay, I'm going to have to be the trailblazer, the leader, I'm going to have to be the one to make this happen. And that visibility as well, like just knowing, how do I get that visibility? How do I get people to know that what I can do in this industry? Because in this industry, so it's like social media today. Sometimes just because you're visible and out there, people think, oh, this person can do that. But if people don't know you, then how are you going to get the work in the first place? And so I think that's what this mentoring program can do. It can hopefully help to open doors for people. That network, the cohort of mentors and mentees can share opportunities, and just advocate for the people's development that are taking part within the program as well. So yeah, so hopefully it'll be a powerful initiative in the industry that will ignite things.
I love that. So applications are now open. Carrie's going to pop the link in the chat, and I urge people, if you're not applying for yourself, please share the information amongst your networks. If you are aware of people that you have had reach out to you either via LinkedIn or within your company, you know, this could be a great opportunity for them to, you know, further their careers, and it's an opportunity to pay it forward. So I'm going to wrap up by asking each of you for like one bit of advice for anyone who wants to apply for this program. Sam, if you'd like to go first. You're on mute, Sam.
Sorry, rookie mistake there. So my bit of advice is if you're feeling unsure, you're feeling unstuck, you don't know whether or not this is the right thing for you to be doing, I would really implore you to reach out for a mentor. Speak to somebody, build your community. You'll probably find that you're in the right place and that this moment in time where you're feeling stuck is just before breakthrough. And this is the opportunity for you to crack through that ceiling and move your career forward.
Annika.
Often people tell themselves no before applying for things, and so I would say don't tell yourself no, just no or hesitate, just apply. You're better off seeing kind of what the program can do for you than sitting there thinking, oh, should I or should I not? And then the deadline goes and actually you've lost out on this opportunity. So I'm a big believer in you've got to be in it to win it. So apply. What's the worst that can happen, and hopefully the best will happen. You'll grow your network, you'll take that next step in your career, and you'll have more advice and guidance.
Tanya.
Go all in and don't hold back. Yeah, don't hold back. Go all in. Have faith over fear, and you'll always regret not doing something over doing something.
Wise words. And Jasmin.
Yeah, I mean, echoing what everyone said, just do it. Just face the fear and do it anyway, kind of thing. And then when you do, be very clear on what you want to get out of it. It doesn't have to be a specific goal. You don't have to achieve a certain, X, Y, Z, but just be open to what might come of it. There's so much potential and opportunities that can come from this. So apply.
So I think that kind of wraps up this webinar this afternoon. I'd like to thank all of the wonderful guests on the panel for being honest, truthful, uninhibited in sharing your experiences both as a mentor. A big thank you to Black Women in Post-Production and Black People in Sports Broadcast for sponsoring and aiding in this program. And as I said, the link is in the chat. Please do apply if you think it's something that could be useful to you, or please share within your network to ensure that we reach as many young, aspiring, mid-career, wherever they might be in their journey. I think the theme that I'm hearing very strong is we want to ensure that we leave the industry in a better place than what many of us found it. And remember, it's guidance, support, practical insights, interruption to isolation, constructive challenging, empathy without ego. These are just some of the wonderful bits of like advice and guidance that our guests have given us today. So I thank everyone who joined us today, and get your applications in, and thanks to Carrie.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone.